The alarms screamed across Earth's orbital defense stations. Admiral Dong-hae Kong stood on the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, watching the enemy fleet materialize from faster-than-light travel. There were thousands of ships, dark metal hulls covered in strange symbols. The Vraxil Empire had arrived. "Get those civilians off the planet," Dong-hae ordered. His voice was calm, but his hands gripped the command chair. "All transports to the evacuation zones. Now!" The first wave of Vraxil missiles hit the outer defense ring. Explosions bloomed in the darkness of space like terrible flowers. Human ships returned fire, but the enemy shields absorbed the damage. Station after station went dark. Dong-hae watched good people die on his screens. Down on Mars, Dr. Yuna Park ran through the corridors of the Olympus Research Complex. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere. Her team had been working for 3 years on Project Horizon. They were so close. She clutched a data drive to her chest and entered the main laboratory. "Doctor, we need to evacuate," a young assistant said. His face was pale with fear. "Not yet," Yuna replied. She typed commands into the computer with shaking fingers. 5 more minutes. That's all I need." On Earth, Captain Jinwoo Lee moved through the streets of Seoul with his Special Forces team. People ran in every direction, trying to reach the shelters. Above them, the sky turned orange as orbital bombardment began. Buildings that had stood for centuries crumbled into dust. "Team, fall back to the government bunker," Jinwoo spoke into his radio. "We need to protect the civilian leadership." Commander Hana Choi was already at the bunker, coordinating the defense. She watched the tactical displays with growing horror. The Vraxil weren't just attacking military targets. They hit hospitals, schools, residential areas. This wasn't war. This was annihilation. "They're not trying to conquer us," she whispered. "They're trying to break us." In the outer colonies, Minho An watched the broadcasts from his apartment on New Busan. The images showed Earth burning, Mars under siege. His wife held their daughter close, both of them crying. Minho felt something cold settle in his chest. Rage, pure and simple rage. Back in space, Dong-hae made the hardest decision of his life. The Vraxil fleet was pushing toward Earth. His remaining ships couldn't stop them, but they could slow them down. "All ships," he broadcast. "This is Admiral Kang. We make our stand at Mars. For every hour we hold, 1 million more civilians escape. For Earth, for humanity." 60% of the human fleet jumped to Mars. They knew they wouldn't survive. The battle lasted 18 hours. Human ships rammed Vraxil cruisers when their weapons ran dry. Fighter pilots crashed into enemy bridges. Every second was bought with blood. Yuna heard the explosions getting closer. The complex shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Download complete. She activated the hidden transmission protocols. The data shot out into deep space to coordinates only a handful of people knew. "Done!" she breathed. "It's done!" The roof exploded inward. Yuna grabbed her assistant and dove behind a console. Fire and debris filled the air. When the smoke cleared, half the laboratory was gone. She looked at the ruined equipment and smiled grimly. Let them think the project died here. On Earth, the bombardment finally stopped. Jinwoo emerged from the bunker to find Seoul transformed into a wasteland. Ash fell like snow. The air tasted of burning metal. Then he saw them, Vraxil landing craft, hundreds of them, descending through the smoke. The alien soldiers that emerged were tall and covered in dark armor. They moved through the ruins with weapons raised. Jinwoo wanted to fight, but Hana grabbed his arm. "We can't win," she said. "Not today, but if we survive, we can fight tomorrow." They surrendered alongside thousands of other soldiers. The Vraxil herded them into transport vehicles. Jinwoo met Hana's eyes and saw the same thought reflected there. This isn't over. At Mars, Donghei's ship was one of the last still fighting. The Indomitable had taken dozens of hits, half the crew was dead, but they had held for 18 hours. 18 hours for the transports to escape. "Admiral, enemy flagship is hailing us," his communications officer reported. The screen flickered. A Vraxil commander appeared. His face was angular, with eyes like black glass. This was War Commander Thelax. "You fought well, human," Thelax said. "But your resistance is ended. Your empire is dissolved. Surrender now, and some of you may survive as servants." Donghei stared at the alien. He thought of Earth burning, Mars destroyed, all those dead. He thought of Yuna's last message, encoded and brief. "Horizon is active." "We surrender," Donghei said. The words tasted like poison. Thelax smiled. It was not a kind expression. "Wise, your leaders will be imprisoned. Your weapons will be confiscated. Your colonies will serve the Vraxil Empire. This is the price of your defeat." The transmission ended. Donghei slumped in his chair. Around him, his surviving crew wept, but the Admiral's eyes were dry. He touched a hidden button on his command console, activating a secure message. Far away in the cold darkness beyond Neptune, something stirred. Ancient facilities hidden in the Oort cloud received Yuna's data and Donghei's command codes. They had been built in secret over decades, waiting for a day humanity prayed would never come. Automated systems came online. Assembly lines started moving. The Vraxil didn't know it yet, but the war wasn't over. It had just begun. On Earth, prisoners like Jinwu and Hana were loaded onto ships bound for Antarctica. The Vraxil had chosen the frozen continent for their prison camps. As Jinwu watched his planet disappear behind him, he made a promise, to himself, to humanity, to everyone they had lost. "We will remember this," he whispered, "and we will make them pay." In the outer colonies, Minho held his family close. New Busan hadn't been attacked yet, but the Vraxil broadcasts were clear. All human worlds would submit. All human technology would be surrendered. All human resistance would be crushed. Minho kissed his daughter's forehead. "It's going to be okay," he lied. "Everything will be okay." But in his heart, he knew nothing would be okay again. Not until the Vraxil paid for what they had done. Across human space, people watched the same broadcast. Thelax stood on the ruins of the United Earth Government building. Behind him, human leaders knelt in chains. "Your war is over," the alien declared. "Your civilization belongs to the Vraxil Empire now. Resistance is futile. Obedience is survival. Kneel, and you may live." The broadcast ended. Billions of humans sat in silence, processing their defeat. Some wept, some raged, some began to plan. In the darkness beyond the solar system, the first ship rolled off the assembly line. Then another. And another. The ghost fleet was being born. 6 months had passed since Earth fell. The world looked different now. Vraxil flags hung from buildings in every major city. Alien soldiers patrolled the streets. Humans walked with their heads down, avoiding eye contact. In Antarctica, the prison camp stretched for miles across the ice. Thousands of humans lived in metal barracks that barely kept out the cold. Jinwu Li had lost weight. They all had. The Vraxil gave them just enough food to survive. "Another work detail tomorrow," Hana Choi whispered as they stood in the food line. "They're taking 50 people to the mines." Jinwu nodded slightly. They had learned to communicate in codes. The Vraxil watched everything, but they didn't understand human subtlety. That was their first mistake. "I'll volunteer," Jinwu said. "The mines connect to the old research tunnels." Hana understood immediately. The tunnels could be used to move people, to hide supplies, to organize. She touched his hand briefly, a gesture the guards wouldn't notice. "Be careful," she said. on New Busan, Minho An watched Vraxil soldiers drag his neighbor from his home. The man's crime was possessing an old tablet computer. All human technology was forbidden now. The soldiers beat him in the street while his family screamed. Minho wanted to help, but his wife grabbed his arm. "Don't," she pleaded. "Think of our daughter." He watched in silence as they took the neighbor away. That night, Minho couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the man's face, the fear, the helplessness. Something inside him broke. The next morning, Minho went to work at the power plant. The Vraxil had forced him to maintain their equipment. He was good with machines, which made him valuable, which gave him access. As he worked, he studied the alien technology. He learned how it functioned. He learned its weaknesses. In the Kuiper Belt, far from any planet, Lieutenant Nari Song piloted her fighter through an asteroid field. Behind her flew 12 other ships. They were all that remained of the 7th Fighter Wing. For 6 months, they had survived by raiding Vraxil supply convoys. "Target ahead," her co-pilot announced. "Vraxil transport lightly armed." Nari smiled coldly. "All wings, attack formation, make it quick." They struck like ghosts. The transport never saw them coming. Within minutes, it was debris. Nari's team grabbed what supplies they could carry and disappeared into the asteroids. "How much longer can we keep this up?" her co-pilot asked. "As long as it takes," Nari replied. "Every ship we destroy is one less they can use against us." On Earth, Taiwan Kim ran a resistance cell from the ruins of Tokyo. Before the invasion, he had been a corporate executive. Now he was a rebel leader. His network passed information, moved weapons, and helped people escape the worst of the Vraxil occupation. "The camp in Antarctica is growing," one of his contacts reported. "They're bringing in more prisoners every week." Taewon studied the map on his hidden computer. "We need to make contact with them. Military prisoners could help organize our efforts." "Too dangerous," another resistance member said. "Antarctica is locked down tight." "Everything is dangerous now," Taewon replied. "We do it anyway." In a secret medical facility, Dr. Sora Lim treated injured resistance fighters. She had been a trauma surgeon before the war. Now she operated in basements and abandoned buildings, always one step ahead of Vraxil patrols. A young man lay on her makeshift operating table. He had been shot trying to sabotage a Vraxil communications array. Sora's hands moved quickly, removing the bullet, sealing the wound. "You'll live," she told him, "but you need to rest for at least a week." "Can't," the young man gasped. "Have to get back. The fight." "There will be time to fight," Sora said gently. "First, you heal." On Mars, in the ruins of the Olympus complex, Yuna Park lived like a ghost. The Vraxil thought she was dead. That was exactly what she wanted. She had found shelter in the deep maintenance tunnels beneath the destroyed research facility. She wasn't alone. Admiral Dong-Hae Kong had survived the surrender. He had escaped custody during a prisoner transfer and made his way to Mars. Now he and Yuna worked together in the darkness. "The facilities are responding," Yuna said, her eyes on a jury-rigged computer screen. "Production is ahead of schedule." Dong-Hae looked at the numbers. Ships. Thousands of them. Building themselves in the cold void beyond the solar system. No human crews needed. Just AI and automation. "How long until they're ready?" he asked. "Another 6 months. Maybe less," Yuna replied. "But we need pilots for the command vessels. We need people who know how to fight." "We'll find them," Dong-Hae said. "The resistance is growing. I can feel it." Back in Antarctica, Jinwoo worked in the mines. The Vraxil forced prisoners to extract rare minerals from beneath the ice. It was brutal work. Men died every day from exhaustion or cold or accidents. But Jinwoo noticed something. The guards rotated shifts at predictable times. The surveillance cameras had blind spots, and the old research tunnels were exactly where he expected them to be. At night, he gathered trusted prisoners. Hana was there, along with other former soldiers. They whispered in the darkness of their barracks. "We can't escape yet," Jinwoo said. "But we can prepare. We can organize. When the time comes, we'll be ready." "Ready for what?" someone asked. Jinwoo's eyes were hard. "To fight back." Across human space, strange reports began to surface. Vraxil patrol ships went missing. Supply depots were sabotaged. Communication relays stopped working. The Vraxil blamed it on human resistance, but something else was happening too. In the deep black between the stars, the Ghost Fleet was waking up. Thelax stood on the bridge of his flagship, reading the reports with growing irritation. Human resistance was supposed to be crushed. Instead, it was spreading. Small attacks. Nothing that threatened the Empire, but enough to be annoying. "Increase patrols," he ordered. "Execute anyone caught with weapons. Make examples of entire communities if necessary." His officers obeyed. The crackdowns intensified. More humans died. More were imprisoned. But the resistance didn't stop. It grew. On New Busan, Minho made his decision. He contacted the local resistance through a friend of a friend. He offered his skills, his knowledge of Vraxil technology, his access to the power plant. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. The resistance leader smiled. "We need you to shut down the planet's main communication relay. Can you do it?" Minho thought of his neighbor being beaten, of his daughter growing up in a conquered world, of the rage that had been building in his chest for 6 months. "Tell me when," he said. "In the Kuiper Belt." Nari's fighters discovered something extraordinary, an automated shipyard, building vessels unlike anything they had seen. The ships were human in design but advanced, experimental. "What is this?" her co-pilot breathed. Nari scanned the facility. Then she saw the identification code, Project Horizon. She had heard rumors about it before the war, a last resort contingency, a ghost fleet that would activate if humanity faced extinction. "Get me a secure channel," she ordered. "I need to contact someone, anyone who might know about this." The signal went out. Scrambled and coded, it bounced through a dozen relays. Finally, it reached Mars, to a hidden bunker where an admiral and a scientist were waiting. Dong-A received the message and smiled for the first time in months. "We found our pilots," he told Yuna. In Antarctica, Hana discovered something from an unlikely source. A Vraxil guard, one who seemed troubled by the cruelty he witnessed. He spoke to her quietly one night. "Your people had secret installations," the guard whispered. "Military sites. My commanders never found them all." "Why are you telling me this?" Hana asked. The guard's expression was unreadable. "Because this war is wrong. My people, we were told humans were dangerous, aggressive. But I see who the real aggressors are." He gave her coordinates, locations of human military facilities the Vraxil hadn't discovered. Then he walked away, and Hana never saw him again. She passed the information to Jinwoo. He memorized it. Someday, when they escaped, that knowledge would matter. The pieces were moving into place. The resistance was organizing. The Ghost Fleet was building. And humanity was learning to fight in ways the Vraxil never expected. Thelax stood on the bridge of his ship, confident in his victory. The humans were broken, scattered, leaderless. He had no idea how wrong he was. 1 year after the surrender, everything changed. Admiral Dong-Hae Kong emerged from the shadows. He had spent 12 months hiding on Mars, preparing. Now he stood before a holographic display showing the entire solar system. Beside him, Dr. Yuna Park watched the same display with satisfaction. 10,000 ships, she said quietly. All operational, all waiting for your command. Dong-Hae stared at the markers representing the Ghost Fleet. Ships built in secret, far beyond where the Vraxil could detect them. Automated weapons of war designed for one purpose, to protect humanity at any cost. "It's time," he said. In the Kuiper Belt, Nari Song received the activation codes. Her small band of fighters had grown over the past year. Other survivors had found them. Pilots, engineers, soldiers, people who refused to give up. Now, Nari sat in the cockpit of something extraordinary, a Ghost Fleet command ship. It was sleek and deadly, with weapons that made her old fighter look like a toy. Behind her, the automated fleet waited. Thousands of ships, all linked to her command vessel. "All wings, prepare for jump," she transmitted. "Target, Europa. We're going to hit the Vraxil occupation fleet where it hurts." The Ghost Fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. When they emerged near Jupiter's moon, the Vraxil never saw them coming. The automated ships moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons fired in unison. Within an hour, the entire Vraxil fleet at Europa was destroyed. Not a single human casualty. The Ghost Fleet jumped away before reinforcements could arrive. On Earth, the news spread through the resistance like wildfire. Taewon Kim heard it from his contacts. The humans had struck back, actually struck back. For the first time in a year, people dared to hope. "This is our moment," Taewon told his resistance cell. "The Vraxil will be confused, disorganized. We hit them now, everywhere at once." In Antarctica, Jinwoo Lee had been waiting for this day. He and Hana had spent a year organizing the prisoners, training them, preparing them. Now he stood before 3,000 former soldiers. "Tonight we break out," he announced. "The Ghost Fleet is fighting in space. We fight down here. Are you with me?" The roar of approval made the Vraxil guards come running. They found the prisoners already armed with improvised weapons. Pieces of metal sharpened into blades. Stolen tools turned into clubs. The guards opened fire, but there were too many prisoners. Jinwoo led the charge. Hana coordinated from behind, directing groups to key locations. The power station, the armory, the communication center. Within hours, the entire camp was in human hands. "Get everyone who can fight," Jinwoo ordered. "We're taking back Antarctica. Then we're taking back Earth." On New Busan, Minho An made his move. For a year, he had studied the Vraxil communication systems. He knew their codes, their protocols, their weaknesses. Now he stood in the main relay station, his hands on the controls. The Vraxil guards didn't see him as a threat. Just another human technician. They didn't notice when he uploaded the virus Taewon's people had sent him. They didn't notice until every communication relay on the planet started failing. By the time they realized what happened, Minho was gone. He ran through the streets to his hidden apartment. His wife and daughter were waiting with packed bags. "It started," he told them. "The war is back on." Across human colonies, people rose up. The Ghost Fleet's attack had shown them that resistance was possible. Vraxil garrisons found themselves under siege. Supply lines were cut. Officers were assassinated in the night. Donghae coordinated it all from Mars. Yuna had built them a command center in the ruins. From here, they could communicate with resistance cells across dozens of worlds. The Admiral looked at the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. "Phase 2, he ordered. "Begin orbital strikes on Vraxil infrastructure." The Ghost Fleet hit shipyards, fuel depots, military bases. They moved like shadows, striking without warning and disappearing before the Vraxil could respond. Nari led many of the attacks herself, her command ship coordinating thousands of automated vessels. She loved it. The power, the precision. Every Vraxil facility she destroyed was justice for Earth, for Mars, for everyone they had lost. In the resistance, Dr. Sora Lim found herself busier than ever. The fighting had intensified, and wounded poured into her hidden clinics. She worked 20-hour days, saving lives, patching people up so they could fight again. "We're winning," a young fighter said, as she treated his wounds. "Aren't we?" Sora looked at him, at the blood on her hands, at the bodies she couldn't save. "We're surviving," she replied. "That's enough for now." Thelex watched his empire crumble with disbelief. The humans were supposed to be defeated, broken. Instead, they were fighting harder than ever. His fleets couldn't catch the ghost ships. His ground forces were being overwhelmed by resistance fighters. "How did we miss this?" he demanded. "How did they build a fleet without us knowing?" His officers had no answers. The truth was simple. The Vraxil had underestimated humanity. They thought conquest would be easy. They were learning how wrong they had been. Jinwu and his freed prisoners made their way north from Antarctica. They raided Vraxil supply convoys, taking weapons and vehicles. More prisoners joined them. More resistance fighters. By the time they reached the ruins of Buenos Aires, Jinwu commanded an army. Hana stood beside him, looking at the Vraxil fortress that controlled South America. "We're not ready for that," she said. "Not yet." "We don't need to be ready," Jinwu replied. "We just need to be willing." They attacked at dawn. It was brutal, bloody. Many humans died in the assault. But when the sun set, the fortress was theirs. The Vraxil commander was dead, and Jinwu stood on the walls, broadcasting to every human on the continent. "We are not defeated," he declared. "We are not slaves. We are humanity, and we are taking our world back." The message spread. More uprisings erupted. More Vraxil forces found themselves under attack. The occupation was collapsing. On New Busan, Minho joined the local resistance fighters. His technical skills made him valuable, but he wanted to do more than just break machines. He wanted to fight. His wife didn't understand at first. Then she saw what the Vraxil were doing to their world, to their daughter's future. "Teach me to fight too," she said. They trained together, learned together, and when the time came, they fought together. Yuna stood in her laboratory on Mars, looking at her latest creation. It was a weapon unlike anything the Vraxil had seen, a quantum disruptor that could tear through their shields like paper. "How many can we make?" Donghae asked. "Enough," Yuna said. "Enough to arm the entire Ghost Fleet. Enough to end this war." But there was something else in her eyes. A coldness, a calculation. Donghae recognized it because he felt it too. This wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about making sure the Vraxil never threatened humanity again. "What else are you working on?" he asked quietly. Yuna met his gaze. "Insurance. Something to make sure they remember what happens when you attack us." She didn't elaborate, and Donghae didn't ask. Some things were better left unsaid. The Ghost Fleet struck at Keldrin, a major Vraxil military stronghold. Nari led the assault personally. The battle lasted 12 hours. It was the largest space combat since the initial invasion. The Vraxil threw everything they had at the Ghost Fleet, but the automated ships fought with perfect precision. No fear, no hesitation, just cold, calculated destruction. When it was over, Keldrin's orbital defenses were rubble, its shipyards were destroyed, and Thelax's flagship was crippled, barely escaping. Nari transmitted a message across all Vraxil channels. It was the same message Thelax had sent a year ago. "Your resistance is ended. Your empire is dissolved." She cut the transmission and smiled. It felt good, really good. On Earth, Taewon coordinated the resistance networks. They were no longer small cells hiding in the shadows. They were an army, organized, equipped, dangerous. "How long until we can take back the major cities?" one of his commanders asked. Taewon studied the maps. "Soon. The Vraxil are retreating, pulling back to defensive positions. We keep pushing." Across human space, the momentum had shifted. The Vraxil were on the defensive. The Ghost Fleet hunted them relentlessly. Resistance fighters liberated colony after colony. And deep in space, at the edge of the Vraxil Empire, something terrible was being prepared. The Ghost Fleet wasn't just defending anymore. It was preparing to attack, to invade, to end this war on human terms. The war spread like fire across 50 star systems. Humanity wasn't defending anymore. They were attacking, hunting, destroying everything the Vraxil had built. Admiral Donghae Kang stood in the command center on Mars, watching tactical displays that showed human forces advancing on all fronts. The Ghost Fleet numbered 50,000 ships now. Production had never stopped. Every day brought more automated vessels online. "We've taken 17 Vraxel colony worlds this month," Unipark reported. She looked tired but satisfied. "Their supply lines are breaking down. They can't reinforce fast enough." Donghae nodded. "Good. How are the new weapons performing?" "Better than expected. The quantum disruptors cut through their shields in seconds, and the planet killer prototypes are ready for testing." Donghae went very still. "Planet killers?" Yuna met his eyes. "We need to make sure they never do this again, to us or anyone else." The Admiral didn't reply. Part of him knew she was right, but another part wondered what they were becoming, what price humanity would pay for this victory. In space near Titan, Nari Song led a strike force against a Vraxil supply convoy. Her command ship moved through the battle like a predator. Behind her, automated vessels executed her orders with perfect precision. "Target their engines," she commanded. "I want prisoners this time." The Ghost Fleet disabled the Vraxil ships without destroying them. Marines boarded and dragged alien soldiers into captivity. Nari watched them with cold satisfaction. "Take them to the interrogation center," she ordered. "I want to know everything about their fleet positions." One of her officers looked uncomfortable. "Commander, some of them are requesting mercy. They say they're just following orders." Nari's expression hardened. "Did they show mercy when they burned Earth? When they killed our families? No mercy, no prisoners who won't talk. Make that clear." The officer saluted and left. Nari turned back to her displays. She knew she was being harsh, cruel even. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Earth burning. That memory drove her forward. On Earth, Jin Woo Lee led a combined force of resistance fighters and freed prisoners toward the Vraxil headquarters in Geneva. The alien occupation government had fortified the city, but Jinwoo had learned from a year of guerrilla warfare. "We don't attack the fortress directly," he explained to his commanders. "We cut off their water, their power, their supply routes. We starve them out." Hana Choi coordinated intelligence operations from a mobile command post. Her network of spies had infiltrated deep into Vraxil operations. She knew which officers were wavering, which units were demoralized. She exploited every weakness. "The garrison commander is requesting evacuation," she reported. "He knows they can't hold." "Let him sweat," Jinwoo said. "Another week of siege and they'll surrender without a fight." On New Busan, Minho An had become a symbol of resistance. The quiet engineer who had destroyed the planet's communication network was now a guerrilla leader. People followed him because he fought smart, not just hard. He stood on a hillside overlooking a Vraxil military base. His team had grown to 200 fighters. They were planning their biggest operation yet. "The base stores weapons for 3 systems," Minho explained. "We take it. We arm every resistance fighter in this sector." His wife touched his arm. "It's heavily guarded." "Everything worth doing is dangerous," Minho replied. He kissed her forehead. "Stay with our daughter. I'll come back." The attack happened at midnight. Minho's people moved like ghosts through the perimeter. They had learned Vraxil tactics, studied their patrol patterns. When they struck, it was surgical. The base fell in 3 hours. Minho stood among crates of alien weapons, already distributing them to resistance cells across the planet. New Busan would be free within a month. In her medical facility, Dr. Sora Lim treated wounded from both sides now. Humans were bringing in captured Vraxil soldiers, and she saved their lives just like she saved human lives. "Why do you help them?" a young resistance fighter asked. "After what they did," Sora cleaned her instruments carefully. "Because if we become like them, we lose more than the war. We lose ourselves." The fighter didn't understand. Sora didn't expect him to. The rage was still too fresh, too raw. But she remembered the oath she had taken. First, do no harm. She wouldn't abandon that, even now. Taewon Kim's resistance network had evolved into something like a government. He coordinated not just military operations, but food distribution, medical care, and civil order. Someone had to think about what came after the war. "We're receiving surrender offers from minor Vraxil colonies," one of his aides reported. "They want protection from the Ghost Fleet." Taewon considered this. Accept their surrender, but they give up all weapons and submit to human authority. No negotiations. The aide looked surprised. "You're not going to execute them?" "We're not monsters," Taewon said quietly. "We're better than they are. We have to be." But not everyone shared his mercy. Across human space, liberated populations were taking revenge on their former occupiers. Vraxil prisoners were being killed. Alien civilians were being driven from their homes. The cycle of violence was spinning out of control. The Ghost Fleet reached the Keldrin system for the second time. This was the heart of Vraxil military power in this sector. Nari knew taking it would be costly, but Dong-hae had given the order. "All ships, battle formation," she commanded. "Target their orbital platforms first, then the shipyards." The battle was brutal. The Vraxil threw their entire defensive fleet at the attackers. For the first time, the Ghost Fleet took significant losses. Automated ships were expendable, but Nari watched the casualty count on her command vessel climb. 3 of her pilots died when their ship was hit. Good people. Friends. Nari felt the rage building again. "Increase firepower," she ordered. "I want those shipyards reduced to atoms." The quantum disruptors tore through Vraxil shields. Nuclear missiles followed. The shipyards exploded in brilliant flares of light. Thousands of Vraxil workers died instantly. When the battle ended, Keldrin was in ruins. The Vraxil fleet was destroyed, and Nari sat in her command chair, staring at the devastation she had caused. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," her communications officer said. "From the planet's surface. They're requesting mercy." Nari almost laughed. Mercy? After everything. But she thought of Sora's words, heard secondhand through other resistance members, about not becoming monsters. "Accept their surrender," she said finally. "But any resistance? Any trick? And we glass the planet. Make that clear." On Mars, Yuna showed Dong-hae her latest creation. It was a device the size of a briefcase, small, unassuming, terrifying. "This can sterilize an entire planet," she explained. "Kill every living thing. The atmosphere, the water, everything becomes toxic for 1,000 years. Dong-hae stared at it. "Why would we need this? Deterrence. If the Vraxil ever threaten us again, we can destroy their homeworld, make sure they never recover." "That's genocide, Yuna." She met his eyes without flinching. "They tried to do the same to us. This makes sure they never get a second chance." Dong-hae wanted to argue, to say this was wrong, but he thought of Earth burning, of all the people who had died, of the year of occupation and suffering. "How many of these can you make?" he asked quietly. "As many as you want." Jinwoo stood on the walls of Geneva as the Vraxil garrison marched out in surrender. Thousands of alien soldiers disarmed and defeated. The people of Earth cheered. Some threw stones. Jinwoo had to order his troops to maintain order. Hana joined him, watching the scene below. "What do we do with them?" "Prison camps," Jinwoo said, "like they did to us. But we feed them, treat them humanely. We're better than they are." "Are we?" Hana asked. "I've seen what our people are doing to captured Vraxil. The executions, the torture. We're not saints, Jinwoo." He knew she was right. The war had changed everyone, made them harder, colder, more willing to do terrible things. "We have to try," he said. "We have to at least try to be better." Across the galaxy, the Vraxil High Council met in emergency session. They were losing. Badly. Human forces were advancing on all fronts. Colonies were surrendering or being destroyed. The empire was crumbling. "We must negotiate," one counselor argued. "Offer them reparations. Territory. Anything to stop this." But Thalax, stripped of his command but still present, shook his head. "They won't stop. We showed them no mercy. They will return the favor." He was right. When the Vraxel sent peace envoys, the humans sent them back with a simple message: unconditional surrender, nothing less. The Ghost Fleet began its final offensive. Target, Vraxel Prime, the alien homeworld, the heart of their empire. Nari led the fleet personally. 50,000 ships jumped into the Vraxil home system. The defenders were waiting, but it didn't matter. The Ghost Fleet had become an unstoppable force. As the battle began, Donghae transmitted a message to all human forces, to Jinwoo, to Hana, to Minho, to everyone fighting. "This is it, the final battle. Make them remember. Make them understand what happens when you threaten humanity. No mercy, no retreat, no forgiveness." The war had entered its final phase, and humanity would not stop until the Vraxil Empire was ashes. The Ghost Fleet surrounded Vraxil Prime like a steel noose. 50,000 ships, all carrying weapons designed to destroy planets. Admiral Donghae Kang stood on the bridge of the ESS Redemption, the fleet's new flagship. Around him, holographic displays showed the alien homeworld below. "All positions report ready," Narisong said from her command ship. "Awaiting your orders, Admiral." Donghae stared at the planet. Billions of Vraxil lived there. Civilians, children, people who had nothing to do with the invasion of Earth. His finger hovered over the firing controls. On the planet's surface, the Vraxil High Council sent a desperate transmission. "We surrender," the High Counselor pleaded. "Unconditionally. We will pay any reparations, give you any territory. Please, we beg for mercy." Donghae listened to the transmission in silence. Around him, his bridge crew waited. They had all lost someone in the war. They all wanted revenge. "Patch me through to all human forces," Donghae ordered. "I need to speak with our commanders." Within an hour, a virtual council assembled. Jinwoo Lee, Hana Choi, Yuna Park, Nari Song, Minho An, Taiwan Kim, Sora Lim. The people who had led humanity through its darkest hour. Now they had to decide its future. "The question is simple," Donghae said. "Do we accept their surrender, or do we end them?" Nari spoke first. "End them. Destroy Vraxil Prime. Make sure they never threaten anyone again." Jinwoo shook his head. "That makes us murderers. We're soldiers, not executioners." "They murdered billions of us," Nari shot back. "Why should we show mercy they denied us?" Minho raised his hand. "I lost my home, my neighbors. But if we destroy their world, we become exactly what they are, monsters who kill innocent people." Yuna's voice was cold. "I've developed weapons that can sterilize their entire homeworld, turn it into a dead rock. We could end this threat forever." Sora Lim looked horrified. "You're talking about genocide, about killing children who did nothing wrong." "Their leaders gave the orders," Hana said quietly. "Not every Vraxil wanted this war. Some of them helped us, gave us information, saved human lives." Taewon listened to them argue. Then he spoke. "I've been thinking about what comes after. If we destroy them completely, we're no better than they are. But if we show mercy without consequences, we invite future attacks." "So what do you suggest?" Donghae asked. Hana leaned forward. "We dismantle their empire, occupy their homeworld, put them on trial for war crimes. But we don't commit genocide. We prove we're better than them." The council debated for hours. Voices were raised. Old wounds were reopened. Finally, Donghae called for a vote. 5 voted for conditional surrender and occupation. 2 voted for complete extermination. Humanity chose mercy. Barely. "Prepare occupation forces," Donghae ordered, "and draft surrender terms. They're going to pay for what they did, but we won't become monsters to punish monsters." Nari closed the channel, her face twisted with anger. She didn't agree with the decision, but she would follow orders, for now. The Vraxil High Council accepted humanity's terms: complete disarmament, occupation of Vraxil Prime for 100 years, war crimes trials for everyone involved in the invasion, reparations that would take generations to pay, but not extermination. Humanity had chosen justice over revenge. However, there was a second part to humanity's response. 400 Vraxil colony worlds had participated in atrocities during the occupation: executions, torture, slave labor. These worlds were given a choice: submit to human authority immediately or face orbital bombardment. Most surrendered. 73 did not. They thought humanity was bluffing, that humans wouldn't actually destroy populated worlds. They were wrong. Jinwoo Lee led the operation personally. He stood on the bridge of a Ghost Fleet vessel, looking down at a Vraxil colony that had refused to surrender. Below, alien civilians prepared for invasion, not realizing what was coming. "Target confirmed," his weapons officer said. "Awaiting orders." Jinwoo thought of the prison camps, the executions, the year of suffering under Vraxil occupation. He thought of the innocent people on that planet who would die. "Fire," he said. The orbital bombardment lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the colony was uninhabitable. Cities were rubble. The atmosphere was toxic. Nothing would grow there for 1,000 years. Jinwoo broadcast the results to the remaining 72 resistant colonies. Within hours, they all surrendered. "How do you feel?" Hana asked him later. Jinwoo stared at his hands. "Like a murderer, but a necessary one." The occupation of Vraxil Prime began. Donghae Kang became the first Governor-General of occupied Vraxil space. Human troops landed on the alien homeworld, taking control of government buildings, military installations, and infrastructure. The Vraxil people watched in silence as their conquerors took over. Some resisted. They were crushed without mercy. Most accepted their fate, knowing it could have been worse. Thelax, the war commander who had led the initial invasion, was arrested and put on trial. The proceedings were broadcast across human and Vraxil space. He stood in a courtroom on Earth, facing human judges. "You are charged with war crimes," the chief judge announced. "Genocide, crimes against humanity, mass murder. How do you plead?" "I followed orders," Thelax said. "I served my empire." "So did the humans who killed your colonies," the judge replied. "Were they just following orders too?" Thelax had no answer. The trial lasted 3 months. The verdict was never in doubt. Guilty on all counts. The sentence, execution. On the day of his execution, Jinwoo visited Thelax in his cell. The alien looked older, broken by defeat. "Why did you not exterminate us all?" Thelax asked. "You had the power." Jinwoo sat across from him. "Because we're not you. We're worse. We give our enemies the chance to remember their defeat, to live knowing they awakened something they couldn't control. Your empire fell not because we're cruel, but because we're efficient. You thought we were weak. You learned we were deadly. Let your survivors spread the word across the stars. Never attack the humans." "We offered mercy. We will not offer it twice." Thelax was executed the next morning. His last words were a warning to his people. Remember what happens when you threaten them. Remember and never forget. The Vraxil Empire shattered in the aftermath. Different factions fought for control. Civil wars erupted. Human peacekeepers tried to maintain order, but the aliens were destroying themselves from within. Unipark continued her weapons research. She built arsenals that could destroy solar systems, created defenses that made humanity nearly invincible. She never wanted humans to be vulnerable again. "Is this what we've become?" Sora asked her one day. "Weapons builders? Conquerors?" Yuna looked at her coldly. "We've become survivors, and we'll stay that way." Narration commanded the new human defense fleet. It was 10 times larger than before the war. She patrolled the borders of human space, watching for any threat. Some called her paranoid. She called it prepared. Minho An returned to New Busan with his family. The planet was healing, but scars remained. He helped rebuild using his engineering skills to create a better world, but he kept a weapon by his bed and trained his daughter to fight, just in case. Taewon Kim established a historical archive on Earth. He collected every record of the war, every atrocity, every victory, every loss. Future generations would know what happened, would understand the cost. "We have to remember," he told his staff. "If we forget, we risk becoming them." Sora Lim worked to heal the psychological wounds of the war. Humans and the few Vraxil willing to seek peace. She knew the hatred would last for generations, but she tried anyway. Hana Choi became head of intelligence for occupied Vraxil space. She ensured no resistance movements could threaten human control. It was brutal work, but necessary. "Sometimes I wonder if we won," she told Jinwoo one night, "or if we just survived." Jinwoo held her close. "We did what we had to do." Donghae stood in his office on Vraxil Prime, looking out at the alien city below. Human flags flew from buildings that once housed their enemy's government. He had become the face of occupation, the symbol of humanity's triumph and its darkness. On Earth, monuments were erected, not celebrating victory but mourning the dead, warning future generations. The largest stood in Seoul, where the invasion had begun. The inscription read, "We were peaceful until we were not. We were merciful until mercy became weakness. Remember the cost. Remember what we became." The Ghost Fleet remained active, patrolling the borders of human space. 10,000 automated ships, always watching, always ready. Humanity would never be caught unprepared again. Across the galaxy, other alien civilizations received the reports, read the accounts, saw the images of destroyed Vraxil colonies. They learned a new truth. Humanity was dangerous, not because they were aggressive, but because they were efficient, deadly, and completely willing to do whatever it took to survive. Diplomatic envoys arrived at human worlds bearing peace treaties, trade agreements, non-aggression pacts. Every alien species wanted to make sure they never became humanity's enemy. The humans accepted cautiously, they traded, they talked. But they never forgot. They never let their guard down. They built bigger fleets, stronger weapons, better defenses. 100 years later, human children learned about the war in school. They studied the invasion, the occupation, the Ghost Fleet, the reckoning. Many asked the same question. Were we right to show mercy? Their teachers had no easy answer. The war had saved humanity but changed it forever, made it harder, colder, more willing to do terrible things. Jin Woo, now an old man, visited schools to share his story. Children asked him if he regretted what he did. "Every day," he admitted. "But I'd do it again, because the alternative was extinction. We chose to survive. We chose to make sure it never happened again. Whether that makes us heroes or monsters, history will decide." The Vraxil Empire never recovered. 100 years of occupation broke it completely. When human forces finally withdrew from Vraxil Prime, they left behind a shattered people, divided, weakened, no longer a threat. Some Vraxil tried to rebuild their civilization. Others integrated into human society, accepting their defeat. All of them remembered the war. The stories passed down through generations never attack the humans. They show mercy once, only once. Humanity spread across the stars, building a new empire, larger, stronger, more dangerous than before. The Ghost Fleet watched the borders. The weapons labs developed new ways to destroy enemies. The military drilled endlessly, preparing for threats that might never come. Nari, now an admiral, commanded from her flagship. She was old, but still fierce, still vigilant, still remembering Earth burning. "We're ready," she told her officers. "If anyone tries what the Vraxil did, we'll end them before they know what hit them." And across human space, people nodded in agreement. They had learned the cost of peace, the price of survival. They would pay it again if they had to. The Ghost Fleet patrolled silently through the darkness, waiting, watching, a reminder to the galaxy that humanity had awakened, and it would never sleep again.